You think you understand time. You wear a watch. You feel yourself getting older. You remember yesterday and you plan for tomorrow. Time feels obvious, familiar, almost boring. It feels like something so basic that it doesn't even need explaining. It's just there, always ticking, always moving. But that feeling isn't time. That feeling is something your brain creates so you can survive. It's a sensation, not a definition. It's a biological shortcut. Your nervous system builds the experience of time the same way it builds the experience of color or sound. Useful, vivid, convincing, and deeply misleading. Most people walk around with a poetic picture in their heads. They imagine time as a river, flowing from the past through the present into the future. You picture yourself floating along, carried forward whether you like it or not. You didn't choose to move, but you're moving anyway. It's a beautiful image, and it collapses the moment you poke it. If time is a river, how fast does it flow? 1 second per second. That sounds reasonable until you stop and think. 1 second per second doesn't describe anything. It's like saying a ruler is 1 ruler long. You've used words, but you haven't said anything about reality. So already something is wrong with the picture. The truth is far stranger, far more mechanical, and much less romantic. Time doesn't flow. It doesn't push you forward. It doesn't drag you from the past into the future. Nothing is carrying you anywhere. And if you think you understand time just because you can count seconds in your head or glance at a clock, you're about to be very uncomfortable. Because the confusion starts much closer to home than you think. It starts inside your own brain. You believe you have an internal clock, something ticking away quietly, measuring the passage of time with reasonable accuracy, but you don't. What you have is a loose collection of biological processes that approximate duration, and they do it in wildly different ways depending on the person. Try a simple experiment. Sit quietly and count to 60 seconds in your head. 1, 2, 3. You think you're measuring time, but you're not. You're running a personal program. Some of you hear a voice. You are literally talking to yourself. 1, 2, 3. You are sub-vocalizing. If someone interrupts you and asks you to speak, the program crashes. You lose your place. The counting machine jams, but other people don't hear a voice at all. They see something, numbers sliding past, a mental tape measure clicking forward. Click, click, click. And this is where it gets interesting. If you use the visual tape measure system, you can read a newspaper, check a shopping list, even sort your laundry, and still keep counting time accurately. The counting happens in a different mental channel. The person using the voice can't do that. If they try to read, the voice is hijacked. Time disappears. This tells us something crucial. What you experience as the passage of time is not universal. It varies from person to person. It depends on mental machinery, on internal translation schemes. It is not a fundamental feature of reality. It's a biological hallucination. So when physics talks about time, we have to do something that feels almost offensive. We have to ignore how it feels. We have to throw intuition out the window. In physics, we don't ask, what is time really? That's a fine question, but it's the kind of question philosophers can argue about forever without resolving. Instead, we ask something brutally practical. How do you measure it? And the answer is almost disappointingly simple. Time is just a way of ordering events. That's it. Imagine a deck of cards laid out on a table. You can say this card comes before that one and this one comes after. Nothing is moving. The table isn't flowing. The order is just a structural property of how the cards are arranged. Time is the table. Events are the cards. When you say time passes, you are simply reading the cards from one end to the other. This leads directly to the biggest mistake people make. You imagine time as a container. You picture the universe as a big empty box, and time as a clock ticking on the wall of that box. Even if we removed everything inside, stars, planets, atoms, light, you imagine the clock would still go tick, tick, tick. That idea is wrong. Time is not a background stage. Time is a measure of change. If nothing changes, no atoms vibrate, no light moves, no energy shifts, time has no meaning. You cannot define a second without a physical process. A pendulum swinging, a quartz crystal vibrating, a cesium atom oscillating. All clocks are physical. And if there is nothing physical happening, there is nothing for time to measure. Time is not separate from the universe. Time is a property of the universe. Language makes this harder to see. You say, time makes me older. Time spoiled the milk. But time didn't do anything. Time doesn't have hands. It doesn't reach into your body or your refrigerator. Bacteria spoil milk. Chemical reactions age your cells. Entropy drives those processes. Time is just the bookkeeping system we use to describe how fast those things happen. Saying time caused it is like saying inches built the house. Inches didn't build anything. Carpenters did. Time is the ruler, not the worker. And now we reach the point where intuition really starts to panic. If time is just a ruler, what happens if the ruler itself can stretch? Yes, this isn't philosophy. This is measured fact. For a long time, we believed that a second was a second everywhere in the universe. Earth, Mars, deep space, all ticking together in perfect harmony. It feels obvious. It feels necessary. It's completely false. The rate at which clocks tick depends on where they are and how far. They're moving. This isn't because the clocks are defective. It's because reality is built this way. Imagine driving across a giant flat sheet of paper. You can drive north or east. If you drive northeast, you split your motion between two directions. Now, replace north with time and east with space. You are always moving through the universe at a fixed total speed. That motion is divided between space and time. Sit perfectly still, and all your motion goes into time. You move into the future at the maximum possible rate. Stand up, walk, get in a rocket. Now some of that motion is diverted into space. And mathematically, you must move more slowly through time. Your clock slows down, your aging slows down, nothing is broken. You've just changed direction. If you could move at the speed of light, all of your motion would go into space. There would be nothing left for time. For a photon, time does not pass. From its own perspective, it is created and absorbed in the same instant. The universe is frozen. You don't feel this when you run for the bus because you're slow. Biologically speaking, you are a snail. But the effect is real. We measure it. We correct for it. GPS satellites experience it every day. If we didn't adjust their clocks, your location would drift by kilometers. Now there's another illusion your brain creates, the arrow of time. You remember breakfast, not dinner. Eggs break, but they don't unbreak. Milk spills, but it doesn't leap back into the bottle. Most physical laws work forward and backward. Film a planet orbiting a star and play it in reverse. It looks perfectly fine. Film an egg smashing on the floor and play that backward, and everyone knows it's fake. This isn't about time itself. It's about probability. There are countless ways to break an egg. Only one way for it to be whole. Systems naturally drift from ordered states with few possibilities to disordered states with many. We call this entropy. You don't feel time flow. Wing. You feel disorder increasing. Your brain is a mess detector. When you distinguish the past from the future, you are really distinguishing less disorder from more disorder. If the universe ever reached maximum disorder, where everything was evenly spread out and nothing interesting happened, the arrow of time would vanish. No memory, no before, no after. And this brings us back to those people counting in their heads. The voice and the tape measure, both are attempts to impose a rigid linear structure on a universe that is fundamentally flexible. Our brains evolved to survive, not to understand space-time. They are efficient, not accurate. We track time because we need to know when danger arrives or when food is ready, not because evolution cared about relativity. And yet, despite all this, time still works for you. You can still boil an egg. You can still meet a friend at 2 o'clock. You don't need to understand the engine to drive the car. But isn't it better to know the engine is there? Because when we talk about time or physics or even love, we think we're speaking the same language. We nod, we agree, we say, yes, I understand. But inside, we're running completely different translation schemes. Common sense is just the collection, mental habits you acquired early in life. Physics doesn't just give you new facts. It asks you to dismantle those habits. That's why it feels hard. You aren't just learning something new. You're translating against the grain of your own biology.